Folks, today I am going to be reviewing a game called Executive Decision. This is from the 3M Bookshelf series. This game was created in 1971 and it is for 2 to 6 players. The object of this game is you're going to be in charge of a corporation and you are trying to make the most amount of money by the end of the game. The way you're going to be making money in this game is you're going to be purchasing raw goods, and then in turn you're going to be converting those raw goods into a finished product. You are then going to sell the finished product back into the market. Now the unique thing about this game is that there is a chart that you have to watch out for that deals with supply and demand. The supply and demand will go up and down depending on how much people buy. And it's pretty unique, so let me show you how this game works. I'm going to show you the components that are in this game. First thing are your raw material cards. There's 3 different types. There's X Fine, there is Fine, and then there is Standard. Now the X Fine is the highest quality of all 3 of these, then Fine is the second highest quality, and Standard is the third highest quality. These are the materials that you are going to be buying in order to make these products right here. This is the production chart. An A finished good will be made from 2 X Fines and 1 Fine. The B will be made from 1 of each, and the C will be made from 1 Fine and 2 Standard. All right, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the price level board. This is the raw material side. Each of this has an opening price next to it, 40, 30, and 20. This is the start as to how much you're going to pay per unit of raw material. So an X Fine at this point is 40. You have the finished goods. This is the second phase of the game. Once you go ahead and create your goods using this production chart right here, you're going to go ahead and attempt to sell it back to the market with this. And now this is your market calculator. This is going to determine how much this is going to be ultimately going for. And on this side, for the finished goods, for this. Now the way this works is like this. Let's say you want to buy 4 units of the X Fine right here. So you went ahead and you put 4. Now what you're going to do is you're going to look at the market calculator and it says 4. You'll note here underneath it says -6. This is basically the supply and demand part of the game that moves it up and down. So right now, since you have ordered 6, it's going to go down to 34 for the opening price. Now what you have to factor in also is how much of these units your opponent is going to buy as well. So if your opponent says buy 7, you're going to add the 7 and your 4 to the total amount, which will come to 11. Now you're not going to know how much your opponent is going to bid, so you kind of have to figure out how much he's going to bid. And so let's say the total amount of the X Fine that is bought in the month of January is 11. So this means that the price will be 41. Now the reason that this is significant is because you're going to be placing a bid on your tally sheet for these units. So let's say, again, that you had 4 and it's -6 here, and you have 34. What you have to do is you have to make sure that the total price that you bid is going to be over this amount. So for example, if you say, okay, I'm willing to pay $39 for X Fine, and the total amount comes to 41 because of the total amount of raw materials that is purchased, you're not going to be able to buy any of the X Fine. But let's say you go ahead and say, okay, I'm willing to spend $45 per these units over here. Then you're going to go ahead and be able to buy it because you beat this number. But you're going to have to buy each of those units for the $45. Let's do this again. I'll just do it Fine here. Let's say you want to buy 3 units of Fine. You go over here and you look and it says -7. So then you're going to go ahead and say $23. So at least you know the very lowest you're going to be able to bid is 23. So then you try to think, okay, how much do you think my opponent's going to buy? And let's say you think he's going to buy 10 units. So that means it's going to be a total of 13 units, and then it's going to be +3. So you factor, okay, well, if my opponent's going to buy 10 units, I'm going to go ahead and say $33 will be my starting price. That's the most I'll be willing to do. So then your opponent reveals how much he's going to buy of it, and he says, okay, I'm just going to buy 3 units. So that means that the total amount of those raw materials for this month will be 6. So then you subtract 4 from this, and it comes to 26. So now, since you went ahead and you bid higher than 26, you're going to go ahead and be able to buy the Fine units that you purchased. Okay, now let's go to the second part of this game, which is producing your finished goods. As you can see right here on the production chart, you have 3 different finished goods that you can make. Now the X fines are usually the ones that go with the most money. So now let's say that you have these 3 certificates in your hand and you're thinking, okay, how much of this am I going to be able to make? What do I want to make? So you say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and make 1 unit of A. So you'll take 2 fine right here, or I'm sorry, X fine, and 1 of these here. Now again, you're not going to tell your opponent what you're planning on making because you're going to be doing this side of the board now. So let's say you go ahead and decide to make 1 of those and you decide to make 1B, which will be this and this and this. So then you're going to mark on this tablet here that you're going to be making 1 unit of A and 1 unit of B. And then you're going to go ahead and place a price that you're willing to sell it for. So now what's going to happen is you're going to look on this board here, and it's the starting price right here is 140. So let's go and say, okay, you're going to make 1 of these A units right here. So you're going to go to the finished goods section now. So it says 1 unit and it says +9. So this means that this price is going to go up to $149. So that basically is going to be a starting point for you as far as how much you're willing to sell it for. However, again, you have to factor in how many of those finished goods, the A goods, that your opponent is going to put together. So let's say that your opponent decides he's going to make 2 of those finished goods. That makes the total 3, and then it says +5. So this is going to move this up to 145. So again, you're going to have to figure this out and place a bid or a price based on what you think you and your opponent are going to have total. And you do not want to go over this total amount. So let me go ahead and give you an example. Let's say again, you're going to make 1 unit of this. It goes to +9, it goes up to 149. So you're thinking, okay, how many of the units is my opponent going to make? And again, and another thing is, you're going to be able to see all the raw materials that your opponent has. It's going to be laid out in front of them. So then you can kind of use that to figure out how much he's going to make. So let's say you figure, okay, I think my opponent is probably going to make 4 of these A raw materials. So what you do is you're going to go ahead and factor that in as well. So 1 + 4 is 5, and you have a +1 here. So you figure, okay, he's going to go ahead and make 5, so you go ahead and place a price of $141 over here. Your opponent goes ahead and reveals that he's only going to be making 3 of them. So the actual price is going to be $145. So since you went ahead and placed a price of $143, you will be able to sell them. However, if it turns out you go over the amount that this spot shows, you're not going to be able to sell any of those goods. And the same goes for B and C. You're going to go ahead and figure out how many of each that you're going to want to sell and how much your opponent is going to sell. So what ends up happening is if you're able to go ahead and sell your goods, you're going to go ahead and give these cards back to the bank and then take the money that you bid. Another thing is if it turns out that you bid and you don't have the money to pay for them, then you're not going to be able to get any units at all during that turn. And it goes the same for selling too. If you end up saying you're going to make a certain amount of product but you don't have the right cards, then you're not going to be able to make any product at all. So that's basically how the game works. You're just going to go as long as you want, and this thing is going to be going up and down. And it's pretty cool because you're going to still be able to see what cards your opponent has left over, and you're trying to figure out, okay, how much is he going to make? What's he going to make? What do I want to make? And ultimately, the goal is you're trying to end up with the most amount of money at the end of a year or however long you want to set it for. And that's how you play Executive Decision.